I renounced my love of Doom 2 the way it did.
I hate
I
it
played
now.
it again and it was atrocious.
Actually, since you said that thing about not all of Doom 2's maps being very well balanced for pistol starts, I'm wondering if you guys put a lot of effort actually into that aspect of all of your maps, or if you got kind of lazy, not specifically what the word, um, well, on purpose with some of your maps, and some of them are going to be bullshit with pistol start unexpectedly.
Well, no, I think I mean to say that it's rather that they didn't test out continuous play.
Oh,
Um, so I mean, to some folks, it will seem bullshit. I mean, if there are a couple of people out there
should.
who uh, who played from a pistol start continuously. You know, in pistol start continuously. Blah. If they play from pistol start instead of playing it continuously, when they load up a map set for the first time, and they might find that Doom to the way it did is unusually bullshit compared to Doom 2.
Oh, I thought you said that Doom 2
I guess
from pistol start was not very tested, and continuous was easy, but
well, no. I mean, it plays as intended in pistol start. Does Doom 2.
mm,
Um, I think we balanced it for both. I think.
I guess it's just not a case of there's no harm in being a bit better than Doom 2 in this case.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, it wasn't conscious. I think it was more of just a case of time. Once again, we were just sitting on too much of it, and we ended up balancing more things than we perhaps needed to.
Well, you should have had stricter deadlines then, I guess. Find someone. Well, I guess Tarsman would fit the bill. Just like Sandy, apparently, make all the maps.
Funny you should say that. I mean, Tanson's going to be taking over for the final Doom the way it did. We need someone with tighter bootlaces.
Oh boy, and I was just thinking of doing something for TNT like you suggested last time, and now I don't think I'm sure about that anymore.
No. There's a lot of leniency with TNT. With TNT, it's going to be very different than it is with Plutonia, because Plutonia, it's very technical. You can really study the Casali style down to a T, and I mean, if you were thinking of making a map for Plutonia, then that's the area.
Oh hell no! I wouldn't even dream of touching that style. I don't know.
Particularly as Tarsman loves TNT, he'll be very scrupulous. But with TNT, it's more about how not necessarily each of the maps feel independently, although that is kind of important depending on who you're mapping for, whether it's yourself or an existing TNT member, because we are doing that. But rather how the maps play off each other. You should go from a map of reasonable quality to one that is complete shit, and then back again, with no real cohesion in half the places. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be another example of us deliberately making the map set bad in certain places, which is always a controversial point, but we love it, at least men making it. And so that's why Antroid, if you wanted to make a map for TNT, I think you'd be on safe ground for the most part, depending on what you wanted to do. I mean, if you wanted to make an Antroid map, then you have free reign. If you wanted to make a Drake O'Brien map, then you'd be in for a bit of more feedback, I guess.
I think I'll settle, if I even participate, I'll settle for an Android map. I think it's just going to
be... 1996 Android map.
Well, yeah, yes. I'm not sure... I'm not sure how well I can do in doing something shit on purpose, but I really want to try, at least. I really want to try doing something where I just don't look back at and say, nah, this is misaligned here, this texture feels wrong, this blah blah blah.
Oh no, I wouldn't worry about that. No, not for TNT.
Alright, moving on and...
So this is Rock King's map. He just sort of came out of nowhere saying, hey, this project is still going on, appears to be delayed, I'll make a map. Yeah, I think it is the largest map in the set. Doesn't take the longest to play necessarily, but it does have the most area that needs covering. So we'll see how it plays. It's a sandy effort.
What's the name? Sanctum. Okay. This looks the least city of any of these maps so far. I guess the Sanctum. And then again, there was definitely some city maps that weren't very city. So, kind of fits.
Well, that's why I think I kind of said that Cul-de-sac felt more like the pit or feeling based to me. I mean, let me ask you a question. I mean, when you think of the second half of E1, Sandy's maps basically, from map 8 to map 10. Do they really make you think of a starport, or do you just kind of think of them as Sandy maps?
Well, before these projects came, I never really thought about any of the maps as one specific author, because I didn't really research into who made what. I didn't really differentiate that well. I guess I could see how, I don't know, some of the early MyGame maps were strikingly different from Sandy maps, but I just chalked it up to some maps being, I don't know, completed before and some after, where the authors were hurrying and some such. But it does kind of, I don't know, it sticks. I guess maybe it's just the texture selection that's, although even the texture selection isn't very characteristic of text-based. But I guess I'm just so used to thinking of those levels still as text-based that I can accept it. Kind of like what we were talking about in the thread, where I know it's supposed to be text-based, so I guess I'll just... I mean, why wouldn't they use, I don't know, stone or bricks to build parts of it? Doesn't really feel that strange if you think about it. If one was expecting all metal and plastic and shit for a text-based, it doesn't really make... I mean, maybe on different planets, but on Earth they would very much use standard building materials, and we are very much still building buildings out of blocks of stone. Well, not really stone, I guess, but something that would look kind of like this, maybe different color. So I don't really, and especially as I said last time, I think, or time before last, about the very beginning of Tricks and Traps, which I don't know, just maybe because there's so many doors and it's so bright, it definitely did look like a starport kind of place. Oh boy, this stairway is way too tall.
Yeah, it's a little crappy little sandy puzzle there that needs solving.
There's a puzzle there, okay.
And by sandy puzzle, I really mean something where, you know, you just got to flip switches, and only when you've completed it do you realize that it was a puzzle in the first place. Like that sort of.
That's the best kind of puzzle.
But yeah, no, I mentioned that, or asked you that question rather, because when I look at this map and map 16, it strikes me that this is to E2 what refueling base or the pit is to E1 in Doom 2. You know, and so when I'm trying to mentally categorize sandy maps, which you can do, and I think I also would have mentioned this perhaps in the first part of the series. You know, there are those sandy maps which are, again, very simple and basic in concept, and usually existing so that he can string together different ideas under some sort of unifying idea. Like, so in Downtown, it's a sandbox of separate buildings and ideas. In Courtyard, it's one giant outdoor box, out from which branch different ideas. In map 21, it's just different ideas connected by teleporters, basically. And then only occasionally in stuff like the Chasm or Barrels of Fun is something completely dominated by an idea that isn't dedicated to separate ideas that are unrelated but connected in layout. I mean, so those are the way I think of sandy maps, and then I have this kind of separate category for the pit maps, because to me I just sort of think of that as these are just abstract kind of shapes with rooms. There might be separate ideas there. There are separate ideas there, but they don't seem to be linked by a kind of piece of layout in the same way that Downtown is. Because map 9 isn't a sandbox. It's just rooms. Kind of thing. I can't really categorize it in my brain. That's why the end of E1 has always been very strange to me. But I'm glad we have those kind of maps elsewhere as well now. Such as with this one, to an extent. I mean, Rock King's a little cleaner, I think, even when he's trying to be sandy, and the layout's a lot more coherent. But I think Pavera's map 16, Cul-de-sac, does the best job of achieving that kind of thing. Doesn't really seem linked by any layout of any kind, other than the pit style, to me. I'm not sure if you agree.
Well, I guess I kind of agree about Cul-de-sac, but I'm not sure I agree that... Well, I guess there's no big unifying idea behind the pit, but when you said that it and the refueling base weren't really that tech-based, that starport or whatever, I don't think I definitely agree there, because, well, there is definitely a lot of rooms in the pit that are exactly tech-based. Some of those where I don't remember which key you get there, but that one place where there's like a column with 3 switches in the middle, and it opens 3 different areas, some of them with the
Yes,
bullshit.
yeah, that's
And
the
I think I
area.
remember some of those being pretty tech-basey, and
Yeah.
some other places. And refueling base is just, well, it's pretty clearly a tech-based to me. I don't know.
Okay,
Don't really,
no, I
I
mean,
don't.
I do actually incidentally think it is Starport. Like, if I was going to put those maps anywhere in the set, I'd put them where they are. There are obviously tech elements. I think I was more trying to say that it's so weird in that sandy kind of way that I think of them as strange sandy maps that are almost anomalous before I think of them as tech-based maps or star-based stuff, which they are. But it's just that kind of strong sandy impression that I get.
Well,
Which is also an oddity.
As I said, yeah, I never really thought about any of the maps in Doom 2 by the author, categorized by the author.
Yeah.
So I pretty much think of them as star-based maps still. But this one particularly also, what's the point of this little lift part? This particularly feels like the Citadel kind of map, which is... it wouldn't be out of place in episode 2 or 3 of the first Doom. And I don't know what's the deal is with it being in a city, but I guess, well, maybe some cities have an area where there's older buildings or some bullshit, or maybe it's like a huge museum. I don't know what building would be old looking.
I always thought that Mountain did fit in quite well to the city theme, honestly. I might have mentioned it on a previous episode, but whenever I look at map 14, always I see the old city of Prague or something, rather than. I mean, I guess it depends. If you're from Europe, then I mean, you are from Europe. You might think of it that way. If you're an American, then I guess you wouldn't really see old city, old sort of ruinous cobbled streets. It makes it more difficult to look at map 14 and say, yeah, that's clearly the old part of the town, or what have you. Which is how I think of it.
Well, yeah, I am kind of from Europe, I think. Russia is half that,
Struggles
but
alone.
well, most of my life I spent in Moscow, obviously, and there is not many really old parts in here. The oldest parts that I like enough to actually pay attention to how they look are still of probably like, well, the last century by now, but still, and not really that kind of old. The proper European old looking. So,
yeah.
And I don't really, well, did I press this? I don't know. I guess the very center of Moscow here is kind of like that, but I was always the only one among anyone I know that doesn't really enjoy those places. I like these new spacious neighborhoods with tall, boxy cement buildings, which everyone hates for looking like prison blocks or something, and I fucking love them. I don't know why.
Oh wow.
And more like what's in the background of this. And I guess the cityest maps of Doom 2 were probably downtown. I always mix up the names.
You must love downtown then, yeah.
Downtown,
I mean, that's
well,
the definition of blocks
yeah.
beside each other.
I always mixed downtown and suburbs before, but I think now I actually remember which one is which, so I guess downtown more. And actually I remember people talking somewhere about how suburbs were nothing like any sort of suburb, and I actually can kind of see suburbs in there if I really squint enough. So I guess I like that too. I don't know, when I think of cities I think of bigger, even maybe more American style, like you said. I probably, despite not being American, I still kind of share that viewpoint on what the city looks like.
Well, today we look at Antroid's viewpoints on design different even than his countrymen.
Yep. So, damn it.
I should not be surprised.
Maybe I played too much GTA.
So that pit there used to be inescapable.
Wonderful.
Not sure if it still is. There are plenty of inescapable pits in Doom 2TWID.
That's nice to hear.
You've missed quite a few of them, which has me weeping.
Damn it.
Very unfortunate. I wanted you to fall into at least one of them. There's one on map 6 which looks absolutely indistinguishable from all the other pits which can be walked out of, and you tiptoed around it.
Well,
I wept.
Well, I am saddened by this fact because I feel that the inescapable pits are a crucial element of design of the original games, and if I missed it, well, that's too bad. I hope there is many more opportunities for me.
You do have suicide hotkey, don't you?
Well, yeah, but I would prefer the quick load key in that case. Ah, damn it. Ah. So let's find out. Oh,
Hey!
damn it.
Oh, wait, hey!
In a way, it is escapable,
That's right.
probably, but not
I
very.
think that secret used to be only activated from outside.
Wait, that's a secret? Oh, now I
pit.
want to get it again. Dang
So
it.
now it's escapable. Damn it! Damn it, Rocky.
The best, of course, would be a secret kind of like. I think there was one map I saw on one of your streams. There was Starsman's, and there was a bit like Gotcha with a lot of buildings just in the ocean of blood or something. And apparently he loves secrets where you just have to run behind, where you wouldn't really want to run otherwise. Like in Mount Erebus or in Gotcha, I guess there was a secret like that in the beginning. Where you just have to run down in the blood around some building, and there's a door there. Surprisingly, and there's a secret. And the best, of course, would be such a secret in an escapable pit, but I don't think he would have done that kind of thing. Okay, let's try it again. If we're dying, there was definitely a door somewhere. Gah. Mutated. How do I mutate from that? Alright.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh, brother, zippity boop! Oh, hell yeah!
Ah, you're getting creative with my secret message.
I'm slowly morphing into hillbilly.
Well, you'll have plenty of time for that.
I love this room with the vertically repeating skull switch.
I feel absolutely neutral to vertically repeating skull switches for some reason. You'd think I'd hate it very much, but I don't know, never bothered me.
I think I know Antroid, and then I don't. It's revealed.
I guess in the original vanilla game it's just inevitable in some places where you need to make a tall wall and a switch in it, and perhaps if there is like a floor on top of it so you can't make an inlet with a switch, it can be excused if there was no other way, I guess.
There again with the blue key placement just in the corner, crammed.
Well, listen, here it's very visible because it's full bright.
Yeah.
Against the pitch blackness. Which I'm always considering that I should probably go get another monitor at some point, because I cannot see shit usually if it's even a little bit dark. I got this monitor from my friend actually. He just kinda messaged me at some point and says, hey, wanna come along here? I don't know, just to my place. By the way, there is a spare monitor that I don't need anymore, you can take it if you want. I went there and I carried this heavy ass monitor to the subway, and then the subway all the freaking stairways, and back here, and I had a guy, some dude helped me, some random dude, which I paid like 100 rubles for, I think, in the end, just for beer, and I think I'm going in circles. Yeah, I'm definitely going in circles here.
You are absolutely going in circles. You actually remind me of a time in which I was too young to drive, but I really wanted an Xbox, and rather than delivering it, I was just gonna pick it up from the city. And I hired some bodyguard friends to escort me through the 2-hour walk back to my house. I don't know why I didn't just, have someone pick it up, like, one of my relatives or something.
Strange, but
Strange child.
And yeah, and now this monitor does this to me, where I don't know if it's even good trying to map in this, because I probably make everything way too bright to be able to see it myself. Oh well, at least I can always download my own VOD at work and see how it looks properly, if I have nothing else to do there, which is often the case. Although lately I have been once again burdened with some actual level design tasks, so that's a relief, I guess, in some way. Even though it means I have to work again, there's finally a sense of purpose to my being there 8 hours a day. Oh well. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from saying this map is big, by the way. Ah, damn it. Also,
it's not going to get any smaller. Well, actually, it kind of will, since you progress through it. Well, it depends, because this is one of those maps which has a heck of a lot of secret tangents, and depending on the direction you go in, you could end up extending the map by half an hour, or just 5 minutes. Which is one of the things I love about Doom 2.
I was wondering where the music went. It's just this one track that you can't really hear if it's even at all quiet in your settings. Okay. Okay, now to get out into the outside, I hope.
That's right.
But how? Maybe there?
Yeah, that switch just opened up some tunnels, and oh no, it didn't yet. Yeah, that's right, there's a switch opposite the switch.
Oh.
Hey, look at that useful invulnerability.
Well, it'll help me see better, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah.
And
It's gonna run out before I even get out, I guess. But that's fine. That's absolutely fucking fine. Alright. Could be useful for this. I'm assuming this is damaging liquid again here.
yeah, and that'll be a discussion point that we'll need to get to later on as well. How?
Oh wait, no, it's water.
Oh, it's it's water. Okay.
God damn it!
Actually,
Now the
I actually
invulnerability
went
was
past
truly
myself.
wasted.
There you go. Because there are a couple of maps later on where we do actually break a rule.
Holy
or rather,
shit.
we managed to convince ourselves. We probably broke several rules, obviously. There are going to be things we discover later on that we just missed. But we deliberately broke a rule. Or rather convinced ourselves that it was one that we might be allowed to break, as in, you know, conceivably they might do such a thing. Anyway, there are some instances of using a flat which it always made damaging, which we don't make damaging. And we cited some pathetic little blood puddle in map 28 which wasn't damaging as an excuse for it, to make an entire map basically out of a damaging floor that didn't damage. So that's a really questionable one, and there is an argument to say that you know, that's not something you should have done. But in Essel's case, he who actually used the blood flat without damaging, and myself after Essel did it, I guess, it was all stemming from the argument again that it might have been something they could have done if they wanted to enforce an idea, and because we wanted to, in the case of Sandy maps, retain sort of simplicity. You know, without copying necessarily Sandy's ideas. So we came upon an idea that utilized an ocean of blood. You'll get to it later. And we decided that we valued the idea much more than we valued sticking to that particular rule. So we decided to break it. Whether or not you agree with it, I mean, you'll have to see when you get to it later.
Well, I don't actually remember very well which liquids were always, or if... Well, I guess which liquids were consistent and if there were any that weren't. While we were talking about that, I was wondering about the brown. There was like two. I think there is a normal blood-like brown, and there is the brown liquid that's kind of becoming darker and lighter in its animation.
Oh yeah,
and,
sort of flashing slime
and
thing. Yeah.
I have no idea if there is any rule in the original game as to when which one of those was used, and if the brown mud thing was always damaging or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure we studied the differences between those two flats, but it would have been interesting to have a look. I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't any.
There just seems so little point to that other variation on that texture. Kind of like a couple... I think there was like one of the textures, I don't remember the names of course, but the texture which is kind of like a cracked earth with a red glow behind the cracks, and it's animated, and there's the shrunk down version.
Inconsistency there. There wasn't with the blood, which is where we had inconsistency, or have. But there was with the cracker thing. So I think that and that stupid little blood pool in map 28 is where we kind of got our excuses from that point. This room here, this area, not this particular one, but just the wider one with all this stuff. This used to be all at a very similar theme to the rest of the map. It was all sort of wood and marble, that sort of thing. And then in Sandy fashion, we suggested to Rocking that he just change his theme completely, because Sandy did that a lot, particularly when you just teleport out of a room into a completely different area that's disconnected from the map, as this room is. He just changed the theme completely. If you think about that blue room, for example, in the chasm.
Ah, yeah, I remember which one you're talking about.
It's all of a sudden, yeah, just silver and that. It's almost blinding.
I really need to go replay the...
Guess the change here isn't so drastic, but yeah, it was good that he changed that up. Tanrock 8. Frozen caramelized cake.
Oh, right. Finally I know what to look for when I see this texture, because I was always confused. Some people say it as a generic, fucking cave wall. I always saw it as more of something wooden. And now I know that it's a caramel cake.
And now you have caramelized cake, yeah.
Alright. Huh. I definitely wanted to say something when I was in that... yeah, that little crackle texture, which also has a shrunk down version without any seeming point to that.
That's right.
I think
I've no
there
idea
was
about that one.
a couple stone or some other floor that was also like that. It had a shrunken down counterpart. Ah, yeah, the freaking hexagonal, the brown hexagonal flat, which has a.
Oh yeah.
There's a flat with a really small hexagons also. Why? And there's that. Personally, I'm used to thinking about the brown flats liquids in a way that I make the normal ones non-damaging and the one that's shimmering. For some reason I always think of it now it's boiling or something, and that one is I make damaging, but I very much doubt that there was any sort of consistency like that in the original game. I am kind of interested in
here you'll
that.
have some here damaging flats are the name of the game. It's actually one of the primary ideas on which around the map is based. So with this map, my idea was essentially create downtown, except have less buildings, and sort of go with the idea that the whole city was collapsed by an earthquake, or a hellish earthquake of some kind. Not entirely original, but I figured I could, if I put a soundy approach on it, it might be kind of interesting. Again, I mean, without that sort of idea, it isn't as simplistic as just downtown, which, as I've explained a million times before, is just as simple as you can get. But, you know, it's simple enough, I guess.
I think this was my first time dodging a lost soul while loading the SSG. I never bother. Well, first time for everything. But yeah, that's actually a really neat idea. If a bit more thoughtful, I guess, than the original Doom 2 maps, because as I said before, and you obviously agreed, because there is no way you can disagree with me, episodes 2 of both Doom 2 the way it did have some, well, at least appear to have some additional theme to just generic either city or whatever was the base converted to hell. And
the water thing.
Yeah, and here it's the water in the end. The first one there was the archaeology and the asylum thing and everything. And I don't know if it's a result of, like we said last time, I think, of people, each person trying to make something a bit more unique, and then we found out that everyone made something unique and it's suddenly much more interesting than the original game was, or if there is any other hidden sinister reason behind this pattern. But even though it might not be very doomy, because to me Doom games with their themes are pretty much as generic as it is possible, which really helps, because you can make pretty much what you want out of it in the end. Any sort of tech base, any sort of hell, any sort of city. And
well, I know Tarzan and myself, we talk a heck of a lot about wanting to change up the sort of themes to be completely wacky. I mean, I certainly would like to see a lot more people just depart completely from the common progression of tech base to city to hell, which seems to be just frankly becoming way too frequent for me. I mean, the capabilities of Doom mean that you can still stick with those themes and come up with something new. I mean, we see that all the time with things like No End in Sight, which hasn't been released yet, which is a Caesar and Natural 20 map set. I mean, they do great work with its stock textures and everything feels still really fresh. But still, I'd like to see map sets based in Bolivia or Prague. Why not? Or just Brazil. I mean, I think I'm right in saying that episode 1 of Plutonia is set in the Congo, which people don't really point out that much. No, there's no tech base there. Well, there is, but it's not as dominant as in other map sets. I'd like to see more of that, you know? Just go completely crazy, go out there. Go to the Candy Floss world. Go to a fucking beehive that has been just exploded into size. A bicycle shop that has been swallowed up by hell and has been warped to its own influence. I don't know.
Well, an episode with the theme of bicycle shop really sounds interesting. I really want to see it now. I'm
kind of disappointed that the Cupboard's Great Bicycle Mystery wasn't all about that.
But yeah, there's, well, I guess, yeah, when you're making your own stuff or playing other people's stuff, there's definitely room for more specific themes, but in this, I guess, to be perfectly, well, not perfectly, that's impossible, but to be more Doom 2 like, I guess it would have had to be more generic about its themes. But by itself, well, I know it's the project goal and all, but doesn't really matter to me that much if it's deviating a little bit, because I'm enjoying the theme here. I like when there's thought put into what the place is supposed to be like here. So I'm definitely all damn it. all for this particular theme, for example.